Box fresh skins, new bindings. Is this overkill?
It's a Nocta day.
Year video 2025 this year. Like before, I am a sponsored athlete. A lot of this gear is sponsored. That's the business model of how I make a living, how this channel is able to exist. That's because we have generous sponsors who do create what I believe is the best gear out there, and I work with them also very closely to develop this gear.
Wow.
When I first got into skiing, it was all about, the feeling of riding downhill and climbing to get to lines and like ski touring and all this. For me, it was kind of more of like a necessity rather than something like that I wanted to do. The downhill was always the focus. And I think that's been reflected in the gear that I have used. But then these past 2 years, I actually had a little bit of an epiphany when it comes to like lighter touring setups. I had this whole big movie project. I was trying to follow my buddy Vegard, who was aiming to do the greatest ski tour of all time.
Det her er jo en strabasiøs tur, tilsvarer 4 maraton og flere turer opp og ned Mount Everest.
That's psycho.
We're gonna make the movie about the greatest ski tour of all time. Crazy project, and he was on this light and fast program, and to be able to keep up with him, I also had to get onto this program. And before, I've always like shied away from this kind of gear because I just thought, this isn't for me. It's like I'm focused on the downhill. I find that's where the fun is. But then when I actually got on it, I was like quite surprised by, how much fun you can have on a lighter setup. Like the first ski that I got on was the Black Rose Mentis Freebird.
Yeah, shoot.
And I mean, this is the lightest ski in the Black Rose range. It's short, it's skinny. I got on this and I was really surprised by how fun it was to be on a ski this light and like how well it actually performs. Of course, not when the snow is really deep, not if you're trying to go super fast, but like for moving around in the mountain, this is super efficient and like super fun. I mounted them with like the ATK, like World Cup race bindings, as lean of a setup as I could possibly think of for this project. And like it skied pretty well, but I talked to Vegard about this and he actually suggested just going up a little bit heavier, a little bit sturdier in ski, and you're gonna have a way better experience. Like the step up from something like this to the Orb Freebird is huge. I mean, we're only talking a few 100 grams extra in terms of weight, but just like the ski ability of this ski is like on a whole nother level. Like for sure, you won't be like doing cutting edge freeride lines on a setup like this, but you're just gonna get to where you wanna go without sweating your ass off. It's just way easier to move around in the mountain and also like easy to ski. Like it initiates a turn super easy. A fun ski to be on. I took it actually not in the longest length on purpose. Like I took it in a 179 because, for the days that I want to be on a ski like this, I want it to be short, I want it to be nimble, want it to be playful. I mounted them right on recommended with the Couloir Superlight from ATK, which is a great binding. Honestly, it's pretty close to like the lighter bindings that I would use for like big freeride skis before that I kind of moved away from after a few experiences of like kind of maxing them out. But for a ski like this is perfect. Super easy to use. You just flip this. You're in touring mode, ski mode. You can also turn it if you want to go completely flat. Yeah, pretty happy with it. And of course, with a lighter ski, I also pair that with a lighter boot. This is the Scarpa F1 XT. It comes in at around 1100 grams. And this thing is kind of a beast for its weight. Like you get a really, really good walk mode and also like a really low friction through that range of motion so that, when you're skinning up, you have a very little resistance. It has a Vibram sole underneath, really good for climbing on rocks, great grip. It feels like progressive, fairly stiff flex. I mean, I've done butters, I've done airs in this thing. I've been blown away by the performance and also just like the experience of being out there on a lighter setup, like the ease of use, how light it feels on my feet on the way up. I was able to follow Vegard on these, kinda.
Vegard's just disappearing.
I run them with the stock liner, good Intuition liner, custom footbeds though, paired with like a lighter ski. This is an amazing all-round boot. But then if you want to go a little faster, for sure, I would have like a burlier boot in my quiver. The Scarpa Quattro Pro. This is still the boot that I'm using. I made a big video about this last fall. I recommend checking that out if you want all the details, the story of how we got to where we are right now with this boot. The one thing I didn't get into was like what's going on inside the boot for me. I am using the stock liner. It's a beefy Intuition liner. Scarpa works directly with Intuition making these liners specifically for this boot. And I have tried other liners like third party, you know, those liners you're probably thinking about getting. And honestly, I prefer these. One key feature of them is they have this big sort of plastic shield in the front and a really beefy tongue. And this actually adds a lot of the skiability to the boot that you experience comes from like how this liner is designed with the boot, which is great. I have chicken legs. I added a little bit of padding in the back here, a little bit on top of my toe just to have like extra control. And of course, custom footbeds shaped to my foot. This is key. If you haven't tried this, this will transform how you ski. There's a couple brands making them. These are from Cetus. But from what I understand, Surefoot is just as good. But these are really nice. These have like merino wool against your feet, which is nice on colder days. You want the wool close to your body. Before we get into the Freeride skis, of course, between all the skis, I use the same skins. I use the Black Rose skins, which are actually Pomoka skins branded with Black Rose. They are amazing, actually. They glide well, good grip. Dry up fast, and they come cut to the ski, which is super nice. So you don't have to deal with trimming and all that. And some of them, like the Draco one, actually, it has a nose clip and a tail clip specifically designed for the ski. I've had no experience or no issues with like glue coming off or staying on the ski or any of those things that you might experience with skins. But a hot tip, or a cold tip actually, remember to store them in a cold place, especially during summer. Like don't leave them somewhere warm. That could screw up the glue on them. I actually put mine like in the freezer. The fattest ski that I use is the Nocta. Still the Nocta, still the same one that I showed in my last gear video. I just wanted to give it a quick mention because I've skied it so much this winter. We had so many POW days, just ripping the trees. And I'm just falling more and more in love with this ski. Pretty fat, pretty big, but the radius is still pretty quick, 19-meter radius, with like a really early taper. So the ski kind of only goes from here to here. And then you have a lot of rocker in the nose, a lot of rocker in the tail. It's super playful, floats like crazy, but it's still like you can land big airs, any kind of skiing with powder, really. I mount them on recommended. I've mounted them with the ATK Freerider 15 Evo, which is a great binding. I'll get more into that later, but just because it's actually fairly light ski for this size, so it tours really well despite the size of the ski. So yeah, I just wanted to give the Nocta a little bit of love before we move on to the rest of the program here. Because there are news. This year we have the Corvus, which was actually, you know, the first ski in the Black Rose range was the Corvus. You know, it was the original ski for what Bruno and Camille and the crew was doing in Chamonix when they created the brand. It's been updated now. Actually kind of for Vigil. Shout out to you, shredding on the world tour this past season. Proud of you. You're doing well. And this ski was designed by Julien Renier, by, you know, Kenji and the tech guys at the office. Kind of for Vigil and like his style of riding to go be on the world tour. Just like skiing super fast, massive cliffs, huge air. You know, it has a 25-meter radius. It's a 191.4 length. You know, there's metal in here. It's just a burly ski, a 110, which is kind of like the world tour ski. I'll be honest, to me, this is like almost too much of a ski. I haven't spent that many days on it because, at least for me, I've found that on most days, I can actually be on the Draco Freebird, which is my great love in the Black Rose range. I know I've talked about the Draco a bunch before, so you can go look at the old videos if you want. So it's a little shorter radius than the Corvus, a little bit easier to ski, but it still gives you a bunch of support if you want to do airs, if you want to go fast, all that stuff. It's just like a little bit easier, I would say, than the Corvus. And that says a lot because this is actually still like a fairly aggressive, high performance ski. And I've spent so much time on the Atlas, and I kind of missed it this year because it is a more playful, easier ski. And I think for most people, actually, if you're going into the backcountry, this could be maybe a better choice for you. If you want to go a tiny little bit slower while still charging, like you saw, I mean, the line I skied on Senja, I did on the Atlas. It's still a great ski, but just a little bit more nimble, a little bit easier to initiate turns, a little bit more playful. I say sometimes these are the perfect Norway ski, but I think this could be the perfect ski for everywhere. I've mounted them with the Couloir, the same ATK binding that I put on the Orbs, just to have an incentive to take this instead of the Draco. Even if the Atlas is pretty similar in a way to the Draco, this gives me a lighter, easier setup to take on days where I'm gonna be more like cruising and not maybe skiing as fast as I can or jumping as high as I can. Can still jump with it, can still do all that. And of course you can put a normal alpine binding on it and you're gonna have a good time. Mounting point wise though, I gotta say, with most of the skis, I just put them on recommended and I love that. Draco I'm on recommended, Orb I'm on recommended, Nocta works well on recommended. But with the Atlas, I actually now went +1 from recommended because recommended is so far back from true center. Recommended on these is -8. I think maybe I should have gone 1.5 up to 2. I used to ski these on +2 from recommended. It gives you a little easier pivot, bit more of a tail. So I think I would recommend +1.5 to +2 on these, unless you really want the traditional feel of a short tail and a long nose. This is the new ATK High 13, which is the first hybrid binding I've ever used actually for ski touring. So for me, I've been ski touring on pin bindings for 13 years, a long time. And I've always thought that a hybrid binding, it's not for me because it's been heavy. And the pin bindings have been performing at such a high level that I felt that I haven't really needed it, especially with the weight penalty that they have come with. But now ATK, they got on the whole hybrid program. I mean, if you look at the weight of comparable bindings, there's nothing like it.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful from here.
It's a full metal binding that tours up like a pin binding. And then when you ski down, you're on the regular alpine binding. Now it isn't actually certified by that German agency for DIN, but I've looked at the stats on like how it releases and it's super impressive and I've had 0 issues. I skied this in the exact same way as I've skied alpine bindings in the past with like DIN 16, DIN 18s. For the uphill, there's one quirk, I guess, that some people have noticed, and that's you're standing kind of high. And the binding is called high, actually. And when your boot is on it, you actually have a negative heel riser. If you have a Freeride boot with maybe not the best range of motion, this actually gives you more of a range of motion because you start with a more angle on your foot in the direction of where you're hiking. And it actually works. Also, it does have 2 heel riser options. This is a prototype that was not completely finished, so it's not there. Final version does have it though. And on the other hand, people have been worried about what about like the weight arm, you know, because you're standing high, do you still have the torsional rigidity that you need to have control on an icy traverse on the uphill? And yeah, you still do. This locks you in just like a normal pin binding and you have full control of the ski. I'm super impressed by David, I'm super impressed by the whole team that they've been able to pull this off. To do this like a full metal hybrid binding at this weight is kind of insane. I mean, what is the difference between a pin binding and an alpine binding? Talking to people, I feel like a lot of people just look at a pin binding and an alpine binding and they just feel like the pin binding looks too flimsy. Let's also just like establish the baseline for bindings. All bindings pre-release. All bindings can cause injury or like not release. My one big knee injury was on the normal alpine binding. I think a lot of people underestimate how good these are, and they compare it to some like standard that's unrealistic. Alpine bindings fail as well. I can assure you a pin binding is not too flimsy. If you're on the Freerider 15, like that I'm normally on, you can do this.
Oh!
Jesus.
You can do this. You can do this. Most days that I go out, I'm more than happy to be on a pin binding. However, they do have their Achilles heel. On a pin binding, your toe is obviously sitting on these tiny 2 pins, same with the heel. And the big difference to an alpine binding or a hybrid binding is that there's no elasticity in the toe piece. So like the Freerider 15, it does have a din in the toe piece, it has forward pressure in the back, you have these like spacer that your foot sits on to transfer power to the ski, but there's still no elasticity in the toe. And you feel this difference. I think this is what people talk about when they say they get on a pin binding and it feels weird. It's because you get a very direct transfer of power from the ski to your boot. You just feel everything that's going on. If you're in powder, that doesn't really matter because there isn't that much going on. The snow is, you know, dampening your skiing for you. But if you're skiing on hardpack, if you're skiing on crud, especially if you're skiing on ice, you do feel everything. There is a difference, and you're lacking some of that kind of suspension that you do get in an alpine binding, that you do get in a hybrid binding. This is the Achilles heel, I would say, of the pin system. Also, they are more prone to release on hard conditions. I did have a pre-release this year, going through like a super icy choke at the end of the line, just a bunch of wet snow had ripped through there. It was pure ice. And I hadn't locked my toe. It was in ski mode, so it could still release. And ski just popped off.
Oh shit.
And it was fine in that situation. I just skied down, picked up my ski. But you know, you don't want that to happen in like a critical situation, which is why normally if I'm skiing through icy stuff above exposure, I lock my toe. But then you're in some situations, like I was on top of this other line on Humperocken, and I know I'm gonna be jumping cliffs, I'm gonna be skiing fast. I don't really wanna lock my toe because if I crash, if I'm not able to do the skiing that I wanna do, I'd still want the ski to release. Like I don't wanna mess up my knees. So I didn't lock my toe, I'm skiing down the line. And I just start hitting ice, I start hitting like rock, and I'm like, I get so scared of just the ski popping off because I had that earlier experience that before the cliff, I stopped, I locked my toe just to be safe.
Lock your toes kind of energy.
And I think this is the sort of situations that I would be more happy to be in, you know, a hybrid binding. And I think in the future, I will start bringing a hybrid binding more. I still love you guys though. With the high, I get that elasticity in the toe, I get the dampening. I also have a full metal heel piece clamping me down. You do feel a difference in edge control on this binding compared to a tech binding, especially on, I mean, pretty much only in harder snow, but definitely in harder snow. I'll still take the Freerider 15 for freeride lines where I know the snow is good. I can still ski fast on it, I can still do big airs on it, but if I'm more concerned about the snow, I'll definitely go with the high. And also, you know, for just going resort skiing, going traveling, having one tool that does it all, it's the hybrid, best of both worlds. And then of course, no matter what kind of setup I use, before I go skiing, I get dressed. I always start with wool. Wool socks, wool base layer. We made new base layers with Black Rose this year. I like them a lot. They're kind of like medium thickness merino wool. Started working with Lebent from Australia. Of course, these are Cody Townsend's pro model. We're working on a pro model for me, but I like being in Cody's socks. Cody designed some great socks. They have like a bunch of features like silicone up top. Throughout a ski day, I feel like the worst pain I will get is if my ski sock slips down. These do not do that, they stay up. They work really well, and just having a bunch of good ski socks is key. These keep me warm. They do stay warm, even if they do get wet because they're wool. Wool is by far the best in my opinion. You can wear it for days on end without it starting stinking like synthetics. Like if you have synthetic base layers, your roommates will hate you, your trip buddies will hate you. If you live in a tent with someone on an expedition, they will eventually end up hating you because you will stink. So stays warm and wet, doesn't make your friends hate you. I like the wool. And then of course, on top of the base layer goes the mid layer. This one has like a sort of a windproof fabric here on like the torso, and then like a less windproof fabrics in the arms and the back where you want more of that moisture to evaporate to get your sweat out of the way. Super comfortable fabric on the inside. I think it's a Polartec Alpha, but I can't be sure. If you count the number of hours spent as like the outer layer, this is kind of like my main layer on the mountain because I spend so much time hiking up where I will generally just be in this. I really like it. I like the fit. I feel cool. And then on top of the mid layer, you get the shell. Pants and jacket. We actually started making these when I signed with Black Rose like 2 winters ago. So this has been 2 years in development with myself and all of the Black Rose team in Chamonix and all around the world. And I'm pretty stoked to where we've come with it now. This is what I use 90% of the winter. It's lightweight, has all the features that you expect from, you know, like a high performing mountain shell. You know, big vents, pockets, keycard pocket if you're riding the lift, cuffs to keep your mittens on, gaiters for your ski boots, a big hood, big thigh pockets on the pants. I keep my beacon in one of them. A lot of people do that. I know you're not supposed to, but I do. There's also a little thing to connect your leash. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked on it. Super durable. I don't know how many days I spent in these, and like my pants aren't like cut up from ski edges. It does have some reinforcement, but even around that, it's still held up really, really good. And like, to be fair, I mean, the competition among shells, like if you're looking for like the pure performance, there isn't like a ton of like performance difference in terms of the membrane. We changed the membrane on this one. It's breathes twice as good as the old one. You can feel that, but like I wasn't really getting wet in the old one. I'm not getting wet in this one. If I am sweating very heavily, I will open the vents. I will take it off. In this whole like shell outerwear domain of the ski industry, the big revolution the past 10 years hasn't actually been performance that we can actually take out as like a skier, that we can feel a big difference in between the shells and how they perform. It's actually more on the environmental side, like using less of the PFAS and all that. And this, of course, complies with those standards, those new standards for where we want the industry to be and what direction we want it to be heading to. If you're going for like the top of the line shells from pretty much any brand, you will get like good quality. I mean, this is a top of the line one. I don't believe you can find like a higher performing shell functionality wise or performance wise in like terms of the membrane, durability, all that. But I think also for me, it just looks really good. I feel good in this outfit.
Damn, I'm cold, I'm so clean, look at me go, yeah.
Honestly, it kind of matters so much about skiing. It's about visual expression of what you do. You know, I try to draw a line down a mountain, and in this outfit, I can do that while I feel like I look extremely good doing it. Another thing I will say, I've always been a huge bib guy. I've loved bibs, and I was pretty skeptical when the other guys on the team were like, we really want like the touring kit to not be with a bib, just to be with the belt. Just because, you know, I crash a lot. Even when I'm touring, I like to ski to the point where I crash. And when you crash, you will get snow into places. You know, the fashion now is like you got to have like these small jackets, like up like this above your ass. And I was like, how do you guys do that? And what you do, I'll show you the trick. So you take your mid layer and you tuck it into your pants. And yeah, honestly, I skied deep snow in Georgia, in the trees, Japan style skiing. And I was super happy. It didn't get snow up my ass anywhere and stayed dry throughout the day. However, some days, especially for resort riding, it can be nice to have a bib. It can be nice to have like a little bit of a thicker, more durable fabric. So we have also made a resort setup. Resort setup. This is the Krista. More heavy duty, just Kind of thinking if you're riding more resort, if weight isn't a factor, like it is if you're touring, if you're mostly in the resort, this is good for that. More pockets, more places to stash stuff, but still, you know, big vents, gaiters for your boots, all the features that you expect in a big mountain shell, Freeride shell. Also comes in not a neon color, if you prefer less flashy gear. I was kind of skeptical when I got this neon, but it kind of grown on me. And of course, this is a bib. So that is nice. Doing resort laps, skiing the trees, it does help to keep me warm and dry. This is superior for a powder day where, you know, just powder is flying everywhere. Also the Toray membrane on these, but just a heavier face fabric. So like the outermost fabric protecting the membrane is more durable, stronger, more heavy duty. And then for installation, I have lightweight down jacket. This packs down small, always in my backpack, no matter what I do, just because it's getting cold, but also for safety concerns. If somebody gets hurt, you need to have that insulation piece. I like this. And then if it's like crazy cold, I go with the Fat Puffy. This is so warm, I can't even like sip it up in here. I'd be sweating too much. But yeah, this is sick. I mean, I only really wear this like in camp if I'm winter camping or to town if I'm going to the bar and it's super cold out. But it's really good for that. It's just like, I think it's the warmest down jacket I've ever had. Like this is full fluff, full fluff. Kind of makes me feel like a rapper.
Top of the top, cream of the crop with the.
I'm now using the Scott Couloir Tour helmet because I love Couloirs. Yeah, so it's lightweight, lots of vents, got a fastening system for a headlamp, for hiking up in the dark, for a goggle as well. And it's also made to be used with a balaclava or a beanie, which is really nice because then it is cold enough to be worn while hiking up because I do sweat a lot. So I'm pretty stoked on it. Thank you guys at Scott. For goggles, also using Scott now. This is the React goggles. They have a photochromatic lens, which adapts to however much sunlight there is out there. They do come in different ranges, so you can swap out the lenses. They call it the amplifier tack, which is basically kind of what we do when we color grade films. You can't add light, but you can take away shadows. Like you can make shadows darker, so you can add contrast to whatever you're looking at. Everything is, yeah, a little more contrasty, which is nice. They also have a really nice foam on the inside, like against your face. So stoked on how they're working. And then we got the fast shades. These are the Scott Stride. Super happy with these. Been using them for a bunch of running and like a lot of like high sweat, intense activities. And what's pretty cool is that there's no frame on top of them touching your forehead. So like with a lot of shades before, especially when I'm sweating a lot, you get a lot of just kind of sweat and like sunblock and stuff like sitting on the inside of the shades. But these, they just kind of like the sweat passes through. So yeah, I don't know. They've stayed clear like for full days, like 8-hour days, with like a lot of movement and a lot of sweat. And then they like just sit like really well on the face. Like they don't move around when I move around. Also photochromatic, from completely clear to like pretty dark. So that works like in any sort of light conditions. Super happy with these. And then of course glacier shades. These are just essential for long days on the glacier. And they just look rad, you know? I just feel like a mountain man when I'm wearing my glacier shades. For touring days, I've actually stopped bringing a beanie with me when I go touring. Like what I do now is like most of the time I'll be so warm that I will just not wear a beanie going up. And then for skiing down, I'll wear the balaclava. And also I normally have, you know, at least 3 layers of hoods. You know, the mid layer has a hood and so does the puffy and my shell. There really isn't a need for a beanie other than like fashion. However, I did notice sometimes my ears would get kind of cold. So I've started bringing a little neck warmer, but just like an ear warmer actually. It's just all about like regulating temperature. You know, you want to be like right on the middle where you're not sweating too much, but you're also not cold. And especially with the head. So with this, I can just keep my ears warm while still letting all the steam out from the top. Last thing I haven't covered on my body, my hands. I do not have a glove sponsor right now, so this is stuff that I've bought at the store. For the way up, I use these Hestra leather gloves. Pretty thin, and they breathe really well with the leather and a little bit of fabric here. I've actually used them so much, I've worn them through. But these are great. I use this for the uphill, for skinning. And what's good about it is you can have them like this. And then if you get a little bit too warm with the leather, you can just take out the inner glove. And you have like a super breathable liner that you can use as well. So I'll kind of go between the full leather with the liner inside, just the liner, and then if it's really warm, just my hand. And then if it gets really cold, I'll be in mittens. These are actually from my old sponsor Norrøna, but they're great. They're made for like expedition pretty much. Wool liner inside, big puffy. It has less wool on the palm of the hand, more on top, so you get more dexterity even though you stay really warm. It's also good to be able to take out the inner mitt so that you can dry that. These can go over your jacket or under, which is also nice. And I also just love the feeling of riding with mittens. Said that before, but it's like kind of groovier in a way. And actually one of the products I've been most excited about this year are these fisherman's gloves. I mean, these are pretty much the same thing that they wear out in the North Atlantic doing fishing. They're waterproof, but still breathe a little bit. And they have a liner inside, which is kind of warm. They have been adapted for skiing. They put a gaiter on them, so you can close them off really good. And the use case for these, it's pretty specific. For me, it's when I'm climbing steep faces in snow. So when I'm working in the snow, when I'm using ice axes, climbing up steep lines, your hands will be in the snow like all the time. And with pretty much any other glove, doesn't matter if it has a membrane or not, like those gloves will be wrecked by the time I get to the peak. You know, they will just be completely soaked. Whereas these actually stay dry throughout that climb. It has good grip for your ice axes. Just a great tool. I love it when you find those kind of like crossover products. I mean, these come from the fishing industry, but then they're actually really good for the mountain as well. And with this little addition of the gaiter, it's a perfect tool if you want to climb steep lines in snow and actually like be able to use your hands without worrying about wrecking your mittens or gloves. So really recommend getting a pair of these if you're doing any of the sort of climbing to ski that I do. Talking about climbing lines, of course, in my hands, I have an ice axe. This is the Grivel Ghost Tech, which is actually a huge part of the reason that I signed with Grivel for climbing hardware and harnesses this year. I saw Kilian Jornet was using this on his record attempt of doing all the 4,000 meter peaks in the Alps and was intrigued. It's not the lightest axe out there. It has a big solid blade. You can climb cruxes with this. I have climbed with this, technical ice and rock. This has like a combined hammer adze thing in the back and it really works for both. It has a handrest at the bottom, which kind of looks flimsy when you open it up, but this really holds. I have actually held my entire body weight on this handrest and this one axe.
Shit.
The other good thing about the handrest is that it does fold in when you're going from, you know, using the axe as an axe and then going to plunging. Like you don't have to move that handrest up and down like you do on pretty much every other axe like this. If you push it into the snow, it will fold in, or it won't actually because it's pretty thin and it doesn't really give much resistance to the plunging. I have tried some of those like super lightweight ski touring axes and it just doesn't work for like as an axe. Like the only thing they're good for is plunging. And if you're just plunging, you might as well just use the back end of your pole, right? You don't need the axe blade. There.
Last little crux.
I'm so really excited about this. It does also have a big brother though. This is the North Machine Carbon, and this is like what I'll take if I know that I'm gonna have to pass some like proper climbing, like some mixed climbing, some ice climbing where I want like a real tool that is made for that sort of thing. It's of course a little bit heavier, but it's way better swing weight. It's like a real climbing axe. This is what got us past the crux on Senja, on the Inner King, the King's Gate couloir, the top crux there. Christer had brought one of these.
Could I borrow your axe and throw it down to you after?
Okay. We shared it actually to get past the crux. So now if I'm going on something where I know there will be kind of serious climbing, I'll bring one of these and the Ghost Tech, and I feel like I'm pretty kitted to get past pretty much anything. So it's a pretty good combo. This thing weighs almost nothing and is super easy to get on and off on top of ski pants. And of course, like I wouldn't go big wall climbing in this, like you're probably gonna hurt your thighs after a while. But for like everything that I do in the mountain in the winter, this is perfect. Like you can rappel with it. It's great for glacier travel, a ski cut on a rope, you know, easy stuff like that. Still has all the features you need. Like you can hang gear on this. I mean, you can climb with it. It is fully certified to do anything you would want to do with a harness, but it's like the, you know, the bikini version. Super lightweight, super stripped down. It also walks pretty well. I find that some harnesses kind of constricts my walking a little bit, but this one I can keep on the glacier without thinking about it. And then after skis, this is probably the tool I get asked the most about. This is the Auftrieb carbon plates for climbing up steep lines, basically where you're not able to skin anymore, but you're still climbing in soft snow. This is the most essential tool. I would compare going to climb a steep line in soft snow without Auftrieb. It's like going skiing without skis. These make it your way up at least twice as efficient, I would say. I've been using these for many, many years now. They're the kind of the last in the line of this sort of plate development. They started out as like super heavy plastic metal plates. Now you have these very, very light carbon ones. I hold them in place with the Grivel G-Rider crampon to my boot. And if you haven't tried this setup, I know I mention it every gear video I do. I still get a ton of questions about what are those plates. The plates are, you know, God's gift to the freeride skier who wants to climb lines in soft snow. They pack down super small in your backpack, weigh almost nothing. Just get them. This is the Moonlight 4000 brightest day. And this has revolutionized skiing essentially up here in northern Norway, where we don't have sunlight for 2 months each winter. You can go ski couloirs with these. You can climb big mountains. It's like having a car headlight, you know, with you on the mountain in a small, lightweight form factor. Goes right in your helmet. Really good. Norwegian company. And that's that. I gotta say, I'm really stoked on the state of ski gear right now. It's really cool to see like that the touring freeride domain is sort of where a lot of the gear manufacturers and luckily a lot of my sponsors have been pushing gear development. So yeah, I'm happy to be where we're at, but there's a lot more coming. We're working on a bunch of cool projects. So I can't wait to update you on those when they come to fruition. I'll put the links below and yeah, have a good winter. Any questions? Go in the comments.